Another year of an Xbox showcase rolling around, and it's another year of no sign of Forza Horizon 6. Microsoft just wrapped up the Xbox Game Showcase for 2025, and the same as last year, there was no mention of Forza Horizon 6. I know I said it last year, but it really feels weird to be making a video about something that didn't happen. Like, the fact that Forza Horizon 6 wasn't revealed, it's weird to be making a video about that. But the fact that it wasn't revealed does mean there's going to be some pretty massive ripple effects for the game's scale, the content at launch, players' expectations, and obviously the release date as well, which is what I wanted to talk about in this video. And also, I briefly wanted to talk about why 2025 made so much sense. I mean, right out of the gate, we sort of have a release date for the next Forza Horizon game. Right at the end of the showcase, Phil Spencer came out to basically congratulate Xbox on next year celebrating 25 years of Xbox. And he said next year, we're going to be celebrating that with the release of games like Fable and the next Forza game. He didn't specifically say Forza Horizon, but we know it's Forza Horizon. Other than that, though, Forza wasn't mentioned in this year's showcase. And I'm not gonna lie, although yes, on one hand, we kind of have a release date, on the other hand, it's like, not really. Anyways, let's just carry on. This year was actually really unique for Forza Horizon, though, because every single trend pointed towards Forza Horizon 6 releasing later this year. Forza Horizon 5 is actually following a lot of similar trends to Forza Horizon 4 as that game, as FH4 started to wind down its life cycle, as the release of Forza Horizon 5 kind of became imminent in early 2021. One of the most glaring similarities of what happened in the past and what's happening right now is actually how both Forza Horizon 4 and 5 released on new platforms what seems like pretty late on in their life cycle. Forza Horizon 4, for example, released in 2018, but it only released on Steam in March of 2021, right at the end of the game's life cycle. And it was only 4 months later that Forza Horizon 5 was announced in June. And prior to today, we actually thought the same thing was happening with Forza Horizon 5. That game released in 2021. However, it only just released on the PlayStation 5 in April of 2025. We assumed it would have been the same thing, like, oh, a couple of months later, Forza Horizon 6 gets announced in June, but that's not the case. Not to mention, Forza Horizon 5 monthly updates actually stopped back in January earlier this year. The last major update we got was in April, and as it stands right now, we probably won't get any more major updates for Forza Horizon 5. At least the developers haven't said anything just yet. All of these signs kind of pointed towards the development for Forza Horizon 5 clearly ramping down and the developers focusing on the next project, which was Forza Horizon 6. Well, at least we thought that's what was going on. I think it's also worth mentioning just how insane the development cycle for Forza Horizon 6 might end up being. If FH6 does end up coming out next year in 2026, that means it's going to be on a 5-year development cycle. 2021 for FH5, 2026 for FH6. Just to put in perspective how crazy that is, that's the same amount of time it took the developers to release Forza Horizon 1, develop and release Forza Horizon 2, develop and release Forza Horizon 3, and then get halfway through that game's life cycle as it was almost going into Forza Horizon 4. We'll come back to this whole development cycle thing in a second because I think it does tell us a little bit about what's going on behind the scenes with the next Forza Horizon game, but we'll come back. And I'm not gonna lie, I feel like you and I, as the hardcore Forza fans who have been with this franchise for a very long time, are gonna look at the lack of news and kind of go, that's disappointing. Here's my thought process, though, and why I feel like this lack of news is actually really, really important and kind of impactful for the future of the game. Oftentimes, when a game is quote-unquote delayed, FH6 wasn't delayed, but same sort of deal, you get the idea. Players' expectations will oftentimes do one of two things. Number one, players' expectations will skyrocket, thinking the developers now have more time to develop the game. Therefore, the game's going to be bigger and better than it would have been without that extra development time. Valid thinking there. Or number two, expectations go down because players think that the developers are having trouble developing the next game, which is a very common thing that we've seen recently with a lot of other games. So therefore, player expectations come down. Again, a very valid way of thinking about things. Here's why I think, though, things for Forza Horizon are actually a little bit different this time around. You know how we oftentimes like to poke fun at the developers being like, haha, copy-pasted, haha, they're very environmentally friendly because they're recycling things all the time, haha. Funny joke. Here's the thing, though. If Forza Horizon was truly just copy-pasting things and building in a new map, this game would have come out 2 years ago. Think about it, right? If you're Xbox, who has a cash cow like Forza Horizon, and you've just spent many billions of dollars buying Call of Duty, you need to recoup some of that money as quickly as possible from every single property you have. And if you can launch a Forza Horizon game, copy-pasting everything from the previous one, developing a new map, getting it out the door, making a bunch of money, you're gonna do that every single day of the week. But that's not what's happened with Forza Horizon 6, and because of that, I think this game might actually be bigger than a lot of people think. I've never developed a video game before, so these are only my thoughts from somebody looking from the outside in, but based off the fact that they're clearly not just copy-pasting stuff from the previous game and getting the game out the door, one would have to assume that Forza Horizon 6 is going to be far bigger and far more complex than any other Forza Horizon game we've ever had. One of the ways I think this gets even more interesting is because right now, Playground Games is developing both Forza and Fable. Both of those games are using the Forza tech engine, and I wonder if the developers are taking Fable tech and implementing it into Forza Horizon in some way or another. One of my big theories for the next Forza Horizon game is that you'll be able to get out of your car, walk around in key areas like a garage or car meet, or even your house, for example, to check out cars and have a true car meet experience using the tech developed for Fable. But it might just be features like that that are brand new to the Forza franchise and brand new to the Forza tech engine. They've never developed them before. They might be a little bit more difficult than initially anticipated, and that could be one of the reasons we haven't heard about FH6 just yet. Side note, if we actually bring it back to the topic of money and making as much money for Xbox and Microsoft as possible, I think launching in 2025 would have actually been the optimal time. Forza Horizon 5 just launched on the PlayStation 5 for the first time ever, opening up Forza Horizon to a ton of new potential players, and they've really been enjoying it. For the past couple of weeks, Forza Horizon 5 has actually been the #1 most sold game on PlayStation 5 in North America and in Europe. And if you've got all of those new people jumping into the franchise for the first time ever, the best thing you can do is later on in the year, drop a new experience for them. It would sell extremely well. Essentially, the developers have the most hype they've had in years for the Forza Horizon franchise. And from this point on, that hype will only go down and down and down. The business play, the logical play would have been, hey, announce Forza Horizon 6 right now to capitalize on that hype and get players hooked early. And then, hey, go and launch it on Xbox and PC later on in 2025, launch it on PS5 early 2026, the same ways Xbox has done with games like Indiana Jones, for example. All of this being said, though, what does this mean for Forza Horizon 6 and subsequently Forza Horizon 5? Well, to be honest, we have no idea. At the end of the day, the lack of announcement kind of leaves us with more questions than answers. Again, I'd love to hear what you think, though. When do you think Forza Horizon 6 is going to come out, and why do you think it's taking so much longer than any other Forza game has taken to develop? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to do some reading as I cry myself to sleep tonight. It's a bit of a disappointing day as a Forza fan, but hopefully the developers have something up their sleeve to keep us engaged over the next 365 days. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you soon.